like to talk about how to help your child or your nephew or your niece or your grandchild or even a friend's child. Help them navigate the pain of loss after a divorce. Now, a lot of times, adult counselors are terrific at helping the couple who's been divorced work through their grief. But it's a little bit easier because it's an adult helping another adult who can think on the same level, and they have the same level of complexity of their thinking. They have more sophisticated thinking. But when it comes to helping kids, all bets are off for a lot of reasons. One, kids are at different cognitive levels depending upon the age they are. That's going to impact how they grieve. Second, there are different personalities. There's different emotional levels of growth, if you will, different relationships with their parents. And it can be harder and trickier to help a child after divorce because there's so many more moving parts, if you will, psychologically, well, and physically moving parts. So I think it's really important, as those of us who love kids, to really take a deep dive into what kids experience, how those experiences are different from what their parents experience, and then what we can do about it. Before I dive in, I just want to take 2 minutes and say something to you. If you're a parent who's thinking of getting a divorce, or you're in the midst of a divorce, I would strongly recommend that if you're not in an abusive situation, and you have a reasonable relationship with your spouse, and you have kids under your roof, please consider hitting pause. Because in my experience, couples, parents who are on the front side of divorce and haven't yet gone through it, really can't wrap their minds around how painful the whole divorce process is going to be for them and for their kids in the years following divorce. I've seen hundreds of parents get divorced, and I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of kids live with their parents after divorce. And the pain is very, very deep, and it's very different for different kids. But fundamentally, kids have an extremely hard time with divorce, and the impacts on their lives can last for well into adulthood and even up until they die. And that's a whole different topic. But there's a lot of data on that, talking specifically what divorce does to kids. Now, my intention in my talk tonight about divorce and parents is not to put a guilt trip on you. It's to help you help yourself and help your kids. And I believe with all of my heart that if you're considering a divorce right now, please go extremely slowly, because every divorced parent will tell you that the pain that they experience after the divorce is far more complex and far deeper and and much more widespread as far as the ripple effect into extended family and so forth than they ever anticipated. And I know when you're on the front side of divorce, you can be thinking, if only I can just unload this person, if only I can get out of this toxic relationship, if only I can end this pain. I get it. I've seen people there, but I've also seen those people on the other side of divorce, and it's trading one pain for another pain. So that's enough. As I said, this is not about ascribing guilt or making parents feel badly about divorce. Here's my belief. If you don't face a problem, articulate the problem, understand the problem, you can't help it. And so I believe that facing our problems is the only way, and facing our kids' problems is the only way we can really help them get over pain. And sometimes facing those issues can make us feel guilty. We can deal with that. It can make us feel responsible for having inflicted that pain. We can deal with that. All parents inflict pain on their kids. I'm not divorced. I've inflicted my share of pain onto my kids. So this really is not about trying to make people feel badly. It's about saying, look, this is life. Our kids need help. And putting our own feelings aside and helping our kids. What I'd like to do in the next hour that we have together is 3 things. First, I want to talk about how divorce impacts kids differently than it does adults. And it does impact them differently. Kids feel different things. They deal with very different issues than their parents do. 2, I want to talk about what those differences are. And 3, and most importantly, I want to talk about how we can help kids get past those, how we can help those kids heal, because that's what it's really all about. It's all about doing the best we can for our kids. And I hear really good parents who've been divorced say, I want to put my kids first. Their needs are my priority. And kudos to you. Our kids' needs should be our priority. And particularly in divorce, if we want to make our kids' needs really a priority, we'll face their pain. And this is what it's all about, facing their pain. Now, divorce next to death is one of the most painful, traumatic experiences a person can have, adult and child, because divorce is really very much like a death. It's a death of a life. It's a death of security. It's a death of a lot of things for kids. And kids, in a way, experience death of more things after a divorce than parents do. Glenn Stanton, a very wise man who works at Focus on the Family, recently said, and I don't know that this was his, that he came up with this, but he said, divorce is a death of a civilization. And that's really true for kids. Divorce is a death of a civilization. It leaves very powerful wounds in the lives of kids. So let's look now at divorce through a child's eyes. Now, I'm going to need you to step back into being 5 or 15 or maybe even 18 for the next 45 minutes. Stop thinking about yourself and as adult. Stop looking at what you experienced with your ex and the pain you felt before and during and after the divorce, and step out of that and now pretend you're a kid. And the best way to do that is to think about yourself as a kid. Now, your parents aren't you, and you're not your kids, but it's the best you can do to replicate the thinking of a child. Now, first of all, let's look at specifically what kids experience. So looking through their eyes, kids, first of all, lose a lot more than their parents lose. Parents lose the hope for a wonderful marriage, the hope of a wonderful future. They lose that. But kids lose a big part of their security, of life as they know it. They lose a parent. They lose access to a parent whenever they want to have that parent. And they lose this tight, beautifully woven ecosystem that either is or exists in their mind of what they see as family. There's a world that they fit in. And it's a socio-emotional ecosystem, if you will, where both parents under the same roof live with a child and some siblings, and they create this world that is unique to them. It isn't just the loss of a parent that a child grieves, because parents will often say, well, as long as the child knows I love him and mom loves him, or I love him and dad loves him, he'll be okay. But here's what you're missing. The child doesn't just feel the love of his parent is threatened. He sees that the security he acquires in the marriage, in the ecosystem, is cracked and it's gone. This is his world. His world isn't just 2 parents and a sibling. His world is the family. And that idea, that marital bond, gives a lot of security to a child. And this is what it does. It allows the child to believe that he can trust his parents are going to take care of everything, including their own selves. What do I mean by that? Often, if a child sees a parent hurting, and if that child's in a reasonable marriage, I mean, it's not an abusive marriage. If they're seeing that pain in a family structure where there isn't abuse, they feel, I'm okay. I don't have to help my parent because mom or dad will help the hurting parent. They leave it to you to deal with adult issues. After divorce, however, the game has changed. Now the child is at home with a parent who may be hurting, and now they feel it's their responsibility to help that parent, even if they're 3 or 4 or 13 or 20, it doesn't matter. So the system, the civilization, the marriage family entity is very important to a child's security, their sense of who they are. They belong to a unit. They belong not just to a parent. They belong to a structure. They belong to a functioning system that wants them and needs them. They have something to contribute there. They're part of not just a singular relationship with mom or a singular relationship with dad. And it's very important for parents to remember that, because we don't think about that. We think as adults, well, as long as I have this healthy relationship with this person and this healthy relationship with that person and a reasonably healthy relationship with my ex, life will be okay. Yes, for you, but the child will have lost his civilization, the security in that of going to bed knowing that mom and dad are working together. Now, even if mom and dad aren't really working together, but they're getting along reasonably well and they're not fighting, the child thinks they're getting along okay. Parents often say, well, I don't want my child to see an unhealthy marriage, and I don't want my child to see two people fighting or being unhappy. I don't want to show them that marriage is so hard and it's such a struggle. Well, guess what? First of all, it's fine for kids to see a struggling marriage, because that's what life is, and marriage is a struggle. It's hard. It's painful. Second of all, your kids aren't paying the attention to you that you think they are. Kids are thinking about themselves. Now, unless you're screaming at each other or hitting at each other, if you're having an argument and it's a reasonable argument, it doesn't bother kids that much, because they don't worry that there's going to be a bad outcome. Now, if they hear you argue and they hear divorce being thrown around, that's when they start to worry. But if you're arguing and living in a marriage that you don't feel is a great marriage, the kids don't see it and it doesn't bother them, because they're thinking about themselves. Am I happy? What do I have to do tomorrow? I need to go to bed earlier. Oh my gosh, am I going to have a test tomorrow? What does my friend think about me? Kids, until they're much older teenagers, are egocentric. They're not focused on what they want is for you to be under the same roof, because under the roof is safety and security. Doesn't feel like that for you, but that's what it is. So there's a loss of that security, that sense of trust that things are going to go smoothly. And now, after divorce, a child is put in a very different position in the family. Now you say, well, no, I don't. I don't expect anything of him. It doesn't matter. He or she, depending upon the birth order and the personality and the relationship of the child to the parent, steps in a very different role than before the divorce. And often the child will step into a role as caretaker of one parent or the other. And if they're more than one child, the other child will assume care of the other. Physical care, no. Emotional care, mental care, worry, yes. that's what kids do. And there isn't a whole lot you can do to prevent that. Now, you can address it post-divorce. So it's really important to recognize right off the bat that a child loses a world that he liked and felt safe in and secure in. And now that's shattered. And what he needs to do is reconstruct the world. He has to really reconstruct two mini versions of the world, a world in which mom exists and a world in which dad exists. Now, even if dad isn't around, and even if dad takes off and is never seen again, in his mind, that child has created a world that his father lives in. And it probably has nothing to do with the way dad really lives. But in a child, he needs to keep dad alive. So he creates a world where his dad lives. So from one very strong family dynamic ecosystem to two separate, smaller family ecosystems where one parent exists with the child and all the other kids. That's loss number one that parents don't feel. Second, they lose access to a parent. Often, if things go well and the parents are reasonable and there's 50-50 custody, then they spend half the time with mom and half the time with dad. Terrific. And hopefully, if it's an amicable divorce, a lot of that time is spent with both parents at the same time. It can work beautifully for many parents who are mature enough to really put the kids' needs first and say, okay, we're going to really work together to be with our kids, with one another as much as we can in a civilized manner. Now, that's a best case scenario, but often that's not the case. Often what the case is that a child is with a mom not being able to access a dad except through Skype or text or phone call, but physically not able to be with that parent as much as they were before. And then the same is true with the other parent. Third, kids will feel anger towards their parents. Tough to hear. It's tough for any loving parent who adores their children, is doing the very best they can to accept that their child is going to be ripping mad at them. But that's what good parents do. It's tough to hear and it's tough to face, but good parents face it. Now, you're not mad at your kids. And you're probably you're probably very angry at your ex. Okay. But you're also dealing with a child who's angry at life, angry at God, angry at you, and angry at dad. Now, you can tell your child all you want that it's not his or her fault. They're never going to get it because cognitively they aren't able to. So your child in his mind will say, well, why didn't you do something, Mom? Why didn't you make Dad stop drinking? Or Dad, why didn't you make Mom stop behaving that way? What's wrong with you? Are you weak? You know, what am I now? I have to go live with that person and you're gone. But why didn't you do something to make it okay? Because in a child's eyes, a mom and dad has that kind of power because that's built into that ecosystem that I talked about a little bit earlier. So kids believe that their parents can change things and make changes in the other person or prevent bad things from happening. And when it doesn't happen and they see their parents, quote, fail in their eyes, they are mad. And it's a good thing if they can let their anger out on you. Why? Because if kids can't let their anger out on you, who do they blame? They're going to blame somebody. They're going to blame themselves. And even if you're a great parent, if you're going through a divorce, your child will blame his or her self because no matter how well you've done, a child believes that they have the power to manipulate circumstances, to make things happen, to change mom or dad's mind. And when they see that not happening, they feel like a failure and they feel profoundly guilty. Now, you can, as I said, go to your child and say, well, you don't have to feel guilty. It's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you, which it doesn't. You know that, and I know that, and we can get that, but a kid can't. They still feel guilty. So it's very important to accept that your child will have anger towards you, and you've got to be able to deal with that and get ready to deal with it. And you can. Because even if you're not divorced, your kids are going to grow up and they're going to give you a list of stuff later on in life that they are so mad at you for having done or not having it done. It's just part of parenthood. Now, next, there's going to be a greater change for your kid in their living environment than there's going to be a change in your living environment. Now, think about this. You are going to maybe sell your house and move to an apartment, or stay in your house and stay there, and the kids come and go. Or maybe you're going to move somewhere, but you're going to land in one house. Your kids aren't. Your kids are going to land in two houses. Hopefully, one of them is their childhood home, and hopefully you have the means to be able to keep them at least part-time in a familiar space. But often parents can't do that. They can't afford that. So they end up going into two smaller homes or whatever. But needless to say, the kid ends up going to two new family systems with new living environment, and you stay in one. And that's going to be hard for them. Some kids are fine with change. Some kids have a real hard time with change. So in addition to changing their interaction with you, the amount of time that they get with you, and adapting to an ecosystem that they thought could work really pretty well, now their hopes are dashed, and now they're having to deal with another layer of change, and that's the physical change. Next, they're going to live with that sense of personal failure, even if they're 3 and even if they're 5. Think about yourself when you were a teenager and you went to junior high or you went to high school. Chances are you were profoundly self-conscious. You didn't want to eat at the cafeteria with a certain set of people because they would make fun of you. Maybe you had pimples on your face, bad acne, it wasn't well taken care of, whatever. You didn't want people to look at your face because you were convinced they were going to see you as the ugliest person in the entire world. Kids are self-conscious. It is rare to find a teenager or preteen in particular who has a good self-esteem. They just don't. They feel the world is looking at them and everybody is blaming them for something. And so now with divorce, they have an added sense of failure. They're not smart enough, tall enough, thin enough, fast enough, good enough at soccer. But now they're not even good enough at family life. They're not good enough as a son or daughter. Now, I do want to say, some kids feel this just a little. Some kids carry this weight very deeply in themselves. They take on the whole family sense of failure. They are the one in their mind who really screwed up. And if only they wouldn't have screwed up, mom and dad would have stayed together. If only they would have gotten better grades. If only they wouldn't have backtalked 3 years ago. If only, then they could have kept their mom and dad's marriage together. And it's very hard, and it takes years to help them understand that's not true. But in order to work that through, they need to have much more sophisticated brain development. Next, now kids also have to learn to live with your ex-wife or ex-husband and the issues they had that you might have left them over. Let's say your spouse is drinking too much and you are going to put your foot down. You're not going to enable this. You're going to have a divorce. And after the divorce, you're going to fight for full custody because you don't want your spouse driving your child around drinking. Great. But here's the problem. Many times, it depends on the state that you're in, but the family court or the state or friend of the court or the lawyer, whoever is going to legally make decisions about the kids and where they're going to go and what they're going to do, are very, very reluctant to give up a parent's time with their children, even when that parent has a lot of problems, which means that for you to have the ability to get full custody of your kids and cut the alcoholic spouse out isn't a guarantee. And very many times, kids end up living with an ex spouse, a mom or a dad who has a drinking problem, and now they're left to deal with that parent on their own. Finally, kids feel very big emotions, and often they don't know what to do with those big emotions. They can't identify the big emotions. They're terrified of the big emotions. And when they come on, they can feel overwhelming. You or I would start to feel guilty over something we did, and we'd quickly say, oh, that's guilt. I'm feeling guilty. Am I guilty? Should I feel this way? What should I do about it? But a kid doesn't necessarily do that. They may be 6 and starting to feel guilty, and they don't know what that feeling is. They don't know what to do with it. They'll struggle with feelings of guilt, feelings of loyalty. I'm not loyal to my mom. I'm not loyal to my dad. Now I'm a bad kid to my dad or to my mom. I'm angry at my mom or I'm angry at my dad. And now I'm a bad kid because I feel angry at my mom or my dad. They'll have anxiety. They'll have a sense of loneliness. And of course, they're going to have sadness. Now, kids can feel these all at once, and they can have a 1 year post-divorce implosion where the entire year is horrible because they're anxious and they're sad and they're crying and they're screaming and they're running away from home. They're doing everything imaginable to purge themselves of these horrible feelings. Or they could be the kind of kid that is just going to go about life on the surface and everything looks good. 3 years, 4 years, 6 years down the road, they implode and life turns upside down. Many times, what's more common is for kids to feel all of these different feelings, not necessarily in sequence, but not all at the same time. They'll feel disloyal, and then they'll feel guilty, and then they'll feel sad, and then they'll feel mad, and then they worry. And all of those feelings sort of sprinkle into their emotional life over time. And that's really more common than feeling them all at once. So what do? We have all of these things. Kids face loss of more things than their parents do. They lose access to a parent that they used to have. They feel anger towards their parents. They have greater change in their living situations than parents do. They struggle to maintain a relationship with their ex in ways that you don't. They live with a sense of failure, and now they have to deal with a whole new life, resurrecting, or not resurrecting, but recreating a family ecosystem that looks very different and it functions very, very differently. And all of these emotions are very big. Okay, bad news, done. Now we're on to the good part. So what do we do? And where do you start? Many parents will come in and say, you know, my child is struggling. At least I think they're struggling. I anticipate they're going to struggle. Great parents will come and say that after they've been through a divorce. Good for them. They're keenly attuned to what their kids are going through or could be going through. And they're anticipating problems, and they're anticipating how they're going to best handle the problems. And often parents will say, should I get my child into counseling right away? And in general, I say, not necessarily. The younger the child, the longer I would wait. And here's why I say that, because now you're introducing something completely foreign into the child's life. You're introducing a stranger who's going to try to talk to your child about feelings that may feel pretty new to him. And he's not going to know what to do with it if he's 6 or even if he's 10. Kids can't identify and tease apart feelings and thoughts the way we can. And they want to be able to show those feelings, express those feelings that they can figure out, or at least let out to the person that they trust the most, and that's you. So in other words, start off life post-divorce with only you and your ex, and work with your ex and sit down with your ex about everything I just talked about. A divorced couple should listen, sit down with a piece of paper and say to one another, okay, here's what our kids might be experiencing. Here's what they're going to be facing. How can you and I, as parents who adore these children, help them deal with these troubles? It's very important because you've got to be on the same page. But more than that, you've got to show the kids that you are a united front still, at least when it comes to your trustworthiness in your child's eyes. In other words, your child can trust you to come to and express their sadness or their anger or their fears. And your child can trust your ex with the same issues because you're on the same team. And your child wants and needs to be able to trust you both. So that's where you've got to have the maturity to come together and say, how are we going to parent our kids through these issues that are here with us now? So start out having your child rely on you and your ex to the best of your ability. Now, if you find that you're not able to cope as well as you thought, you've fallen into a bad depression, you need to get outside help for you first and foremost. You got to get yourself squared away. You have to, because if you're profoundly depressed and anxious, you're going to have a really hard time helping your child. Get help. Get help. Find a great counselor. They're out there. Work hard to find a really good one who's used to helping parents through divorce. And then as you're doing that, do your best to bring your child into the fold. And if you need to find a counselor, a family friend, somebody to help your child in the meantime, do it. Recruit the help you need. But if you can, deal with your own hurts well enough that now you can help your child with his hurts. That's the best case scenario. Second, observe them. Look at their demeanor. Look at their moods. Look at their speech, their sleep. Look at it very carefully, not to judge how well they're doing, but to just watch them, to study them, because they will be going through a lot of changes. And you have a front row seat to those changes. So figure out what those changes are, and then try to look behind their eyes and into their heart about what is behind the sadness? What is behind the anger outburst? Why are they also not wanting to go to school? Why are they not sleeping very well? Something is going on that I can help them with. Now, you can't always drag that out of kids, but you need to do some detective work to study your child in a way that you really probably never had to study them before. So be an astute student of your child, learn about them and watch and identify different things. And then when you're feeling calm and life doesn't feel chaotic, then that's when you need to help your child approach them and to begin to deal with them. So you have to be a great observer. 3, you have to spend every possible moment with your child that you can. You must be available. Now, I know that this is really hard because usually parents go into a worse financial situation. Usually that means that one person who wasn't the sole or the primary income provider has to go back to work. And this then keeps them from being with their kids the amount of time they want to. I get it. I totally get it. But when you're home, be present, pay attention to your kids. Don't let your kids go off into the room and just do their thing on Instagram or play video games. You have to be with your child, to watch them, to engage them, to be with them. Let them know you are always available. Have your phone with you at all times. If you're at work and your kid calls, answers. If you're out with friends doing something and your kid is at his dad's house and you're the mom and your kid texts, text right back. You've got to show your child you're always available. Fourth, ask about their feelings more than you talk about your feelings. As I said at the outset, divorce is often so painful for parents that they have a hard time dealing with the depth of grief that was unanticipated. There's outpours of anger and sadness and loneliness and feelings of failure, and they often hit parents all at once. And we can get so wound up in our own pain that it's very easy not to see what our kids are going through. And it's easy to talk about that because we are used to talking about our feelings more easily than our kids are. Even if you're not one who shares about your feelings, chances are the pain sometimes can be overwhelming and you'll let it out and you'll talk about it more than you might ask about your kids' feelings. So if you're feeling a lot of pain, talk to your friends about it. Talk to your friends about it. Don't talk to your kids about your pain. They're not equipped to deal with it, even if they're 18. In their mind, you're the mom, you're the dad, you're the adult who gets adult help for adult feelings. They're the kid who needs help from you. Is it okay to let your kids know you're struggling? Sure. That's it. Boy, I had a really sad day at work today. How have you been? Have you been sad today? Or, gee whiz, I find myself just all of a sudden getting so mad for no reason, period, no details. Never talk badly about your ex in front of your kids, ever, ever. Ask them about their feelings. How was your day today? Oh, it was fine, Mom. Well, I know that you're a friend of yours in your class has been struggling with something. How is he doing? Talk about other kids. Talk about how their friends are doing. Ask them, I sometimes find myself feeling sad just for no reason. Do you ever feel like that? Do you ever feel mad just for no reason? Do you ever find that you get mad at your teacher, mad at me, and you don't know why? Allow your child to talk about his feelings and identify their feelings. And then when they do, listen. If your kid doesn't want to talk right away, don't push it. One of the best times to sort of draw kids out about their feelings is bedtime. And do it in a way where they don't think you're trying to judge them for their feelings or fix them. Kids don't want to be fixed. Don't want to be fixed. They just want to be heard and listened to. And they don't want to worry about you. So when they begin to talk about a feeling they have, let them talk. Don't interrupt. Don't feel like you need to fix it that minute. You've got months and years to help them with it. Just listen. Fifth, when you ask about their feelings, be very specific. So when you talk about feelings, say, are you feeling sad, or do you ever feel sad when you're sitting in class for no reason at all? Do you ever feel mad when your coach tells you to run faster? Do you find yourself being very impatient with any of your friends at school and you wonder that they haven't really done anything? Do you ever get hurt when mom doesn't call or dad doesn't call and you think they're going to call? That's as close to criticism as you ever want to get about your ex-spouse to your child. And there are reasons I'll go into in just a minute. So be as specific as you can about questions and their feelings that you ask. 6, listen, listen, listen. I often joke to parents that when you have teenagers, you need to learn to put duct tape over your mouth because you ask a question, then you listen and you listen. The reason kids don't want to talk to their parents always is because they don't feel you really want to hear what they have to say, or that you're going to try to change their mind or fix their problem or fix them. Kids really don't listen because they don't believe parents really want to hear just what they have to say without judgment. And the truth of the matter is, kids are usually right. Because when I ask my kids a question, even now as adults, I often have an agenda. How did work go? Because I want to tell you something. It doesn't work that way. Listen and keep your mouth quiet. And finally, acknowledge your kids' feelings. Kids usually believe that we don't see their feelings. Kids who are very conscientious, very sensitive kids try very hard to hide their feelings from their parents. They know you're in pain. They're all tangled up in their pain. They don't know what to do with it. They don't want to hurt you more. And so they hide their pain and they focus more and pay attention more to you. If you find that you have a sensitive child who's been doting on you, I'm in the months or years after a divorce, that's great, but be very careful. That child may be coddling you or handling you with kid gloves because they're afraid you might break. And if you break, you're not going to be there for them. So they feel sometimes they need to prop you up to keep you okay so that you won't crack for them. It's great when kids help out, but it isn't great when kids come along and try to make their parents okay. Kids are not supposed to make their parents okay. When they're 8 or when they're 15 or when they're 18, they're still the kid. Your job is to acknowledge that your child has feelings, that you are comfortable with their feelings, whatever they are, particularly their anger towards you for whatever, and that you are available to listen to their feelings, that you're not going to criticize their feelings because they don't want their feelings criticized. They feel what they feel. You don't want your feelings criticized. Whether they're right or whether they're wrong, it doesn't matter. Your kids feel what they feel, and they need to know that you're okay with them feeling what they feel. So acknowledge those. Now, recap really fast. Start with a game plan for you to figure out with your spouse, get on the same page, how the two of you can help your child go through the emotional and physical changes that are happening. And it's going to take time. It's going to take years. It's not going to happen in a month or 2 or 6 or 2 years. It's going to take a long time. If your spouse is not willing to come together and work with you, then talk to a friend or a counselor, somebody who has some wisdom about how to help kids through a grief process. How can you be their mini counselor, if you will? Not their professional counselor, but their mom, their dad, the one they trust that they can feel comfortable coming to and releasing their feelings to. You're the one that they can trust. Come up with a plan on how you can communicate that to your kids, that you're the go-to person when they don't feel so good and when they do feel good. That's really important. 2, observe their demeanor. Study your kids. 3, be available always. Phone on, answer the calls, answer the texts. And when they're around, be with them. Don't you mentally check out. You need that time with them face to face in the room. 4, ask about their feelings more than you talk about yours. 5, when you ask about their feelings, be specific. 6, listen. And 7, acknowledge their feelings. They're very, very important. Now, there are some cardinal rules of things you should never, never do. And this is critically important because I have seen so many parents destroy their relationships with their kids after a divorce because they make one of a handful of mistakes. 3 in particular, 3 biggies that really will jeopardize a healthy relationship with your kid. And the reason they're hard to face is because your feelings after divorce are so intense, they come out easily, and they can often dictate or feel like they're going to dictate what you say and what you do. You cannot let the intensity of your feelings in your pain towards your ex dictate what you do and say with your children. Do not ever speak badly about your ex to your kids. Now, this happens most of the time. And it's so sad for me to say and to see. And here's why it happens. Parents say, well, you know what? My husband's a deadbeat. He ran around with other women. My kids need to know that's wrong, and they need to hear that it's wrong. And I need to tell them why it's wrong. Don't do that. They don't want to hear. They don't need to hear. They know what's wrong. They've lived with you for 3 years or 8 years or 15 years. They know what's wrong. They know it's not okay to behave badly. They know it's not okay to run around on a spouse. You don't need to tell them. You're saying that because you're ripping mad. Go to an adult and have that adult help you deal with your adult feelings. It's a burden your kids cannot carry. Number one, they cannot carry it. Number two, it will backfire on you big time. And here's how it's going to happen. You will rail on the spouse, and you will get that child to understand that mom is a really bad mom. She is not to be trusted. She's done a lot of bad stuff. If they need something, they always come to you, Dad, because you are the one who gets it, who understands them and has their back. Mom doesn't. Here's what's going to happen. They will side with you. They will dislike mom. They will feel guilty about disliking mom. They will not know how to handle mom when they go to see mom. They won't know how to navigate their angry feelings towards mom when they're with mom. So they're already very, very confused and conflicted because remember, you're not there with them with mom or dad. So that really messes them up. They don't know how to deal with this person that they're all of a sudden really not liking at all. And this is very important. As they grow older into adulthood, they're going to start to see that you weren't always right about mom, and that mom might not have been as bad as you said she was, that maybe you were wrong, and maybe you were pitting them against mom all the time. Now they're really mad at you because you've deceived them. See how messy all of this gets? You have crippled them from having a good relationship with mom all these years because of your anger that you spilled on them about mom. So never criticize or speak badly or put down your ex to your kids, no matter how you rationalize it. I don't care. You're doing it for yourself. Pure and simple. Don't do it. It will pit them against mom. It will make their time with the mom or dad, whoever you're criticizing, terrible when they're with this person that they can't trust and that they don't like anymore. It will set you up for a bad relationship with your kids in the future because they're going to find out that you weren't always right and that you were wrong and you deliberately harmed your relationship with their mother. And finally, and this is the most important, when you criticize your ex, you put your kids on the defensive. The kid feels they need to defend that mother or that father. And now they don't feel that they can trust you with their real feelings. They can't trust you or mom to develop their own relationship with mom because they can't have their own relationship with mom or with dad emotionally because it's been so tainted by your perceptions of that person. Now, imagine you're the kid and you have a mom who lives in house A and you have a dad who lives in house B, and you are angry at them both, and your mother criticizes your dad all the time, and you feel that you need to defend your dad, so you can't now talk about your dad the way you want to in front of your mom because she's just going to come down hard on you. So you now can't trust your mother anymore. But even more important than that, your perception of your father is very swayed by your mother's feelings. And now you can't figure out how you honestly feel about your dad. You're on the defensive. You are not free emotionally, if you will, to figure out who your dad is and how you feel about him, because mom's always telling you what to feel and telling you how to think. So I hope that makes sense. But those are the critical reasons you never want to put your spouse down in front of your kids. You got problems, you got anger, I don't care what it is, deal with it with an adult, leave your kids out of it. Second, and I learned this from a couple of my patients, when kids are doing really well in their teen years, I routinely ask them, so tell me what your mother or father did that made you turn out so great. And a couple of years ago, I asked this of an 18-year-old girl who had two younger sisters, and her parents were divorced. Great relationships with both parents, and dad wasn't even living in town. I said, and her mom was sitting right there. Tell me what your mom did, because I'd never met the dad. Tell me what your mom did that really helped you be so emotionally healthy. And she goes, oh, well, that's easy. She said, first of all, I knew I could always talk to her about anything, particularly about my dad, and she wasn't going to put him down. Second, and this was very intriguing, neither parent would let us kids know why they got divorced. Brilliant. In other words, what she was saying is, if mom would have said, I don't even know what happened, we got divorced because dad cheated with my friend and he ran off with her and he's a scumbag. Or even if she didn't say he's a scumbag, maybe she just said, well, the reason we had to get divorced is because dad fell in love with another woman. Let's say we're going to soft pedal it. Dad fell in love with another woman, and now they're going to go off and get married, and he's still a really good guy, but it's really important that these are adult issues, and I don't want you to worry about them. It doesn't matter what you say. In your child's mind, when they hear that dad left you and broke up their ecosystem, their family civilization that they were beautifully woven into, when dad broke that up, now he's a bad guy. And now they have to figure out how to rework a relationship with a man they love, but who's also a bad guy now. But when she didn't tell them why they divorced, neither parent told them, the kids didn't feel one parent was bad or the other parent was bad. They just didn't know. It was just a divorce. So you see how talking to our kids about what another parent did really can harm their relationship with that parent and keep them from being able to have an honest, open, healthy, non-tainted love relationship with that person. It just cuts it off at the knees once we begin to tell our kids details about the relationship and the pain in the relationship. So if your kids don't know why you got divorced, don't tell them. It doesn't matter. Chances are they know, and they don't want to have to go on defense of the other parent. And three, you're not going to want to hear this. Be very, very slow to date or remarry. Here's why. You are now introducing a level of emotional complexity into your child's life they're not ready to deal with. Because when you bring in girlfriend or boyfriend, now what you're doing is you are asking your child to deal with a depth of emotional complexity that they're not ready to deal with. They're already grieving. They're already sad about the dissolution of that union, the fracturing of that ecosystem. And now in comes brand new boyfriend or girlfriend. There's no way they're going to like that person, because in their mind, that person helped cause that breakup. Even if that person had nothing to do with it, it doesn't matter. They're also not ready to see that girlfriend or boyfriend is going to replace mom or dad. They don't want that person in the spot. And when you come in there and you make them go to the wedding, go to your wedding with that new person, that's really cruel, because they don't want that person to marry you, unless, of course, I'm talking very generally, unless there were unmitigated circumstances that were so horrible that they had a need for another good man or good woman to step into their life. But in general, kids are not ready to deal with a boyfriend or girlfriend. Now, second, your kids need your emotional availability to help them and not take that emotional energy and invest in a new relationship. Are you going to get happier with a new person? Yes. Are you going to bring that happiness into your relationship with your child? Yes. But the downside is that you are not spending the emotional energy on the child, and you're also increasing the emotional complexity for your child, and it's too much for them. So be very, very, very slow to remarry. And I often advise parents who ask me to wait until their kids are pretty close to being grown and leave the home to get remarried. Your kids were there first. Your kids need your attention first. Your kids deserve your attention. The issues that they're going to have to deal with a new step parent or girlfriend, boyfriend are a whole nother bag of problems that are going to be tough for them to deal with and tough for you to help them deal with them. So keep life simple. Postpone remarrying as long as you can, if at all possible. I know I've thrown a lot at you and a lot of things to think about and unpack, and it can feel overwhelming. Let me tell you something. You may have gone through a horrible divorce. You may even have gone through a divorce where abuse was involved. A lot of bad stuff was involved. And if you're past that divorce and you're in the throes of grief, or your kids are in the throes of grief, let me tell you, be hopeful. If you face your pain and you help your child face his or her pain or their pain, however it manifests, you let your kids know that their feelings aren't too much for you. You and your kids can do really, really well. Your story isn't written. Their story isn't written. Keep it simple. Be available. Listen to them. Acknowledge their feelings. Acknowledge that what they're going through is enormous and it feels huge, but you can help them handle it. There's nothing that the two of you or that your family can't overcome. And if you don't have a faith, I strongly encourage you to turn to God. There's nothing more healing for an individual or for a relationship, say a parent-child relationship, to pray with that child or to say to that child, you know, this is really tough for all of us. And everything has changed and it's really, really hard. And I just want you to know every day you go off to school, I'm going to pray for you. And so I would love to know how I can pray for you today. If you don't want to tell me, that's fine. But maybe you could write it on a note, because I really want to know how I can help you and how I can ask God to help you. That is going to do more for your relationship and more for healing than you can possibly imagine. Pray with your child. Give your child and hope. Let them know that a good future is around the corner. Yes, you're in the middle of the pit. And yes, it's very hard. And yes, they're very mad. And yes, a lot of bad things may be happening, but it's not too much for you and them and God to handle, ever. I promise you. If right now you're on the front end of a divorce and you haven't gotten through divorce, you're confused about your divorce, you're trying to help somebody with a divorce, or you've had a divorce and your kids are struggling or not struggling, and you need a little bit of help, I want to be available for you. Go to my website, meekerparenting.com. We have a community. It's like a parent portal. You can ask me questions. I want to help you because there is hope for a great life and great future for you and your kids and for your ex. And for your ex. Pray for your ex. I've seen kids who've reestablished very good relationships with parents who've been in jail after divorce. Kids need their parents. They want you and they want your their other parent. They want to love you as well as they can. They're not going to divorce you, and they're not going to divorce your ex. They are with you, and they are with your ex for the rest of their lives. So it behooves you to help them have the best relationship possible with both you and with your ex. And the simpler you keep it, the more you acknowledge that you can handle them, you're fine with their feelings, you're fine with their feelings towards you, and you're fine with their feelings towards the other parent, and you're not going to jump on board and lambaste that parent just like they're wanting to. They will be freed up to let you know how they're really feeling and how they're really getting along. You can do this. If you need help, come to my website. And if you need a marriage counselor, go to find a marriage counselor. Even if your current spouse who wants a divorce won't go for yourself. And finally, take care of yourself. If you're really struggling, you've got to get yourself back on track. You've got to take care of yourself emotionally so that you have something to give for your kids. Don't give up your whole self in order to help your kids get by. If you're really struggling and you're trying to help them out of your struggle, you can only take them so far. So get yourself whole, get them some help, get yourself some help, and then work together with your kids in the future to heal your very new family civilization, which can be very, very good. Good night. Thanks for listening. God bless. I want you to know that I am so excited to be offering the PGK Insider. This is a place that I really want you to participate because we have a community here, and that is that we are all together. We're not doing this parenting journey all by ourselves. I want this to be a place where you can find solid answers, and you don't have to agree with me. That's perfectly fine. My job here is not to tell you what to do. My job is to give you solid answers so that I can help you parent your way, not my way. Just go to my website, meekerparenting.com, and sign up today. You